Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello, and welcome to episode 62 of Mythos Busters. I'm Sean. Joining me tonight are my buddies, my friends, my pals, my guys. Nick. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm going to assume that I'm the guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'll assume that you self-subscribed, so I'm totally down for that. You're my guy.
Cool.
Joining us as well is Scott. Hi, Scott.
Can I assume that I am the Nick?
That wasn't one of... What?
Huh?
He didn't say he was joined by some Nicks. You're already ruining this joke.
Just adding further confusion to what was already an obscure reference. Joining us as well is Ian. Hi, Ian.
Hi. I'm not going to claim anything because I don't remember what you said.
So glad my words are so resounding with you guys.
If you wanted to sum up the entirety of our podcast, like the whole life of it, inside of 10 seconds, that would be this intro.
Very on brand, very on brand. All right, so we've got a fun episode for you tonight. We've got some... we're going to catch up with everybody. We're going to announce our new Orbits contest and wrap up the current one, which I'm fairly excited for. No news this week, and we're just basically, for our main topic, we're going to hop straight into talking about the secret name and the Wages of Sin Mythos packs, and all the joy and pleasure and horror within. And then, of course, we'll round it out with some tentacle time. So, before we get to any of that, though, what have you guys been playing? Any big campaigns going? Anyone tried out Skids and Daisy yet?
I have not, but I did. For just to refresh myself on everything for this, I took your solo Diana deck through TCU. It's been going okay. I got one heretic in that scenario, which I was like, good enough.
That's about average.
I am an enemy of the Lodge, and yeah, I've been really enjoying it. TCU is just shaping up to be an awesome campaign. I don't know if it's going to beat Carcosa for me, but man, is it close. And there's just so many like different branching paths, which is just awesome.
Mm-hmm. There are so many mysteries that are kind of a thing right now. Like, obviously when the campaign finishes and you see how all the threads tie together, we'll be having a different conversation about how these scenarios work, I'm sure. But there's so many little things now where it's like, oh, what does that do?
Yeah. And like all the trinkets you're picking up, like, to find out what they do and like how they matter.
Yeah, I'm curious if it's because the simple version would be it's just like a matter of number of trinkets, but I have a feeling it won't be that simple because there's some very like particular ones you get if you do like really well in scenarios. So I wonder if those are going to factor in.
All right. Well, I have started my Skids and Daisy TCU campaign. So far, only through what's the first one? Not at Death's Door. The Witching Hour. The Witching Hour. It went about as expected. It was great,
amazing.
It was
over the top.
It was a bumbling success.
Yes.
So, I have to say, Skids, I will concede, is in a better spot. Every time I play him, I'm like, okay, he's in a better spot than I thought he was. I still think that his Guardian access is... It still makes him a little inferior to, like, Finn. Just because, unless you're going the enemy-heavy build like we did, there's just not a whole lot that Guardian access does for you. I suppose Scene of the Crime, but... anyway, the decks have been really fun to play together. Daisy, so I finished with 7 XP on the Witching Hour. So Daisy was able to get Vermes, and she translated the glyphs. So I managed to get the glyphs. So I got one of each. because we
Nice.
definitely took shrewd analysis, right? I think we
Right.
forgot to mention it on the episode, but you always take shrewd analysis. Because even if you take it, you can choose not to use it.
Yeah. You don't have to trigger it, but
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it says when you upgrade, you may.
I always thought it was guaranteed, but maybe I'm wrong.
I've got it sitting right here.
I think it's an option.
You may, yeah. Huh. Look at that. I would only use it for the glyphs, I think. I wouldn't use it for the strange solution.
Yep.
But
Well, you guys saying that you're having such fun times with Skids and Daisy is increasing it's getting me back to wanting to play them, because I built those 2 decks, and then after I built them, I looked at them and I was like, I don't want to play either of these decks.
Resounding vote of confidence.
Right? But apparently they're super fun. So I built those 2, and I built, because we basically tore down all the campaigns that we had going because we were so frustrated with how things were going. So I built those, and I built Roland and Akachi that were meant to go together. And I actually started my first 2-handed campaign with Roland and Akachi. And I'm a little frustrated with the scenarios that we'll be talking about today. So I actually did return to Dunwich with those 2, and I'm a few scenarios in, and it's going pretty well so far.
I have been playing a ton of Arkham, actually, recently, because I was both trying to play Skids and Daisy and also refresh my memory about the 2 scenarios we're going to play today. So I was actually playing those scenarios standalone, and I'll talk more about those when we actually talk about the scenarios. But Skids and Daisy, I'm playing through Return to Dunwich Legacy, and I started with House Always Wins, which went really well. And I'm trying to think if there's anything really noticeably different than how I played Skids and Daisy before. I think Skids does feel a bit more powerful than he did, and I do really like Mr. Rook and Daisy. And I guess I just like Mr. Rook in general, I should say. Not just Daisy. I mean, I'm glad we got a secret ally that I really take a hard look at other than Dr. Milan.
Now with mutated Milan, I would say Mr. Rook is head and shoulders above him at this point.
Oh yeah. And I even look for him in like people who can grab him, like Dunwich investigators and that kind of thing. Extracurricular did not go so well. Because, surprise, surprise, Jazz Mulligan was the last card of the deck. Once again. And I just ran out of time. Like, it was one of those scenarios where I really tried to rack my brain of what I could have done differently, and I don't think there was anything I really could have done. Like, I gobbled up all the clues I could get, and he just wasn't there. And I just had to wait for the deck to show Jazz at the end, and by then I needed one more turn, and I didn't have one more turn, so
I think your mistake was not putting Scroll of Secrets in your deck, because that one gets Jazz Mulligan every time.
The ultimate Jazz deck. Yeah.
Perhaps we should have considered Ghastly Revelation.
Yeah, that I was talking in our reveal stream of Ghastly Revelation that there was a recent scenario I played where that would have saved me, and that would have saved me in this particular scenario, because it would have cleaned out 3 clues in one go, and that would have given me the little extra boost I would have needed. But we'll see how they do in the museum. But yeah, so far it's been fun. I think having played Skids and Daisy in a few different campaigns over time and seeing them grow, I do think they are definitely at a better place than they were before.
Really grow as people, you know?
You have time for a real arc, a character arc in the life of this game. What are we saying? Daisy's always been good. Always.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. So as mentioned, we just wrapped a Look What I Found segment, so we were able to preview a new player card that FFG provided us, and that's Ghastly Revelation. So I think we'll probably get this episode out before the pack releases, but if you haven't seen it, go ahead and check that out on our YouTube channel or Twitch under Look What I Found, and I think we'll probably get the audio exported too, right? That's the thing we do now.
Yes.
So also check the podcast feed. Should be on there. All right. So, let's move it into our Bits contest. So, our Bits contest number 2. Scott, take it away.
So we decided to do roast a host, and if you've ever watched, I think is it Jimmy Fallon? I can't remember now. I don't watch late night TV, but basically celebrities reading mean tweets about themselves. We basically asked you as listeners to send in a bunch of mean roasts that were about Twitter length, and we're gonna just read them on the air. So we'll all read the ones that were written about ourselves, and then like last time, we'll each pick a favorite. And then I have my trusty dice tower here with my D4. Just do a test roll. There we go. So, yeah, once
Your baffled dice tower?
My baffled dice tower. My baffled 2-column dice tower. It's like separated down the middle and it's opposing baffles. It's really fancy.
Dueling baffles, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. It was actually a gift for my wife, so
nice.
I just use it all the time. But
okay, so lay it on us. How are we gonna attack this? All
right. Well, at the bottom of our show notes, Sean, why don't you go first? You have your 4 roasts there. Ian, you know what? It's funny. Nick got 4. Sean got 4. I got 3. Ian got 1.
I knew going into this that Ian was like next to bulletproof. Like, who's gonna roast Ian? Like,
someone
who
did.
Would do that.
Someone stepped up to the plate.
But to be fair, it was the guy who did it, literally one for each of us. So,
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
All right. Okay.
All right, so first one is, I bet Sean is the reason Diana has a knife as a signature weapon. No means no.
starting off on a great foot, aren't we?
Hooey.
That's from Chris Basie. Hey, Chris. I think he's in chat today, right?
If we can vote, that one gets 5 votes from me.
He is the one that sent one in for everybody. So,
all right. Next one. Every time I get upset about Sean's horribly awkward pauses, I remember that it could be worse. He could be talking.
Okay, that one gets 6 votes from me.
I'm too proud to be angry. Okay. Thanks, Tim. Sean is so in love with Diana that he doesn't realize that she is using dark insight on him while calling up Drawn to the Flame for some real action. Ooh, that one stings. Ooh, that one stings. Okay, I don't even know how to read this next one.
Yes,
so this is
it'll be clear.
This is Sean reviewing a new player card.
I don't know.
He could have just stopped at "This is Sean."
Yeah, that's fair. Whew, okay. I got through mine, and my ego's intact. This was good. This was good, guys. We got through it together. Ian, your turn.
Let's see if I can read this appropriately. Ian and his monotone voice are the reason I can't listen to the podcast while driving. Fair.
Okay.
Just get excited, Ian.
Okay, so maybe not bulletproof. He's got the space of an Achilles heel.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's next?
Me. I'm actually going to change the order of mine because I read the first one and I think it might be my favorite. But okay. Reason number 3, Gen Con is better than Arkham Knights. Scott isn't at Gen Con. Fuck Canada. That's Chris Basie. Oh, okay. Still not sure I'm comfortable with Scott being part of the crew since the LCGs he likes have a bad habit of dying around him. Scott is the Black Widow of LCGs. So hopefully he doesn't manage to kill Chess somehow.
Oh, Scott, they just announced the Marble Olympics are going to be closing.
What?
I'm joking.
Turns out you got Queen errata in chess.
Yeah, Queen.
Good job.
Please broken.
That one was from Mortendal. And last one. Talking to Scott.
Oh my god, this is great.
Talking to Scott while he's drunk is like trying to parlay with Ashley Clark. Takes twice as long, and he's more likely to become a disgruntled monster before you get your point across.
Oh my gosh, that is so good.
Can confirm.
And that one is from Doma.
Oh my god, that one's good.
Oh, okay.
All
Nick,
right.
you're up.
Okay, my first one is from Nick, NIC, and he says, "Please do an amateur play of The King in Yellow. With your help, the first act might bore the audience to death, saving them the gruesome end." Okay, all right. Another play one. This one's from Chris Basie. "I find it surprising Nick does stage acting. He has the perfect face for podcasting."
Oh my god, I just read the next one.
Okay, I read that before reading it out loud. I'm sorry. "Oh, look, a few of Nick's books are on Kindle Unlimited for $0. Still too expensive." Oh. That's from Christopher Urbanchik, I think is how you say his last name. Oh, wow, that one's good. And then Nick's contributions to an episode can be summed up by, "I'm a few packs behind," if he even shows up, Chad Riverman. Oh, lately, it's so true.
Striking at the heart.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. So now, as is our Orbits contest custom, we must each choose a favorite, and then we'll randomly choose among them.
Now, are we choosing only ones that were given to us, so like Ian's locked in, or should we just choose favorites?
Just choose favorites, man.
Yeah.
I'm going with Nick's books too expensive at free.
Oh, that's the one I was gonna.
That's so
Okay.
brutal.
That was good.
Ian, what's your choice?
I was tempted to pick the Scott drunk one, but I I think I'm gonna pick the one for me for being the one entry I got.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to take the drunk one because that one made me laugh a lot.
That deserves
that
to
one's
be
good.
picked. Yeah.
All right.
So-
Then I'm gonna go with Tim Fiskus with Sean. Every time I get upset about Sean's horribly awkward pauses, I remember he could be talking.
That was my number 2.
Okay, so I'll go
So
off
you-
the order our names are. So Sean, Ian, Scott, Nick. 1, 2,
Yep.
3, 4. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Number 3. That's me.
Yep.
Doma.
Jonathan. All right,
Is Dylan in
excellent.
chat?
Well, Jonathan, I think we have all of these via email, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, we know Jonathan, so it's fine. We'll get in contact with you via email and figure out how to get you your prize. Congratulations and thank you to everyone who put forth an entry in this one. I know we had quite a few people who were like, "Oh, I want to enter, but I'm not mean enough." So I appreciate that we're all good enough friends that you guys could come out with these things because this was fun.
Yeah, that came out good.
Yep.
All right. So, moving on to the next Orbits episode or contest for the next episode. Ian, this wasn't your idea, but I know you championed it. So, can you lay it on us?
Yes, so this is oh boy, I should have researched this because this was one of our patrons suggested this contest.
I think this was Chris.
I believe so, yeah. Well, we have like 1 million Chris patrons. So we should...
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
it's
No, it's
Chris
it's
3
Chris,
or 5.
It's Chris Maka for
Chris Maka,
for
yeah, that
sure.
was my recollection well. So Chris Maka suggested this, and it was a great idea. So if you take a look at the cover art for the upcoming Dream Eaters expansion, there's some kind of big spider creature and all kinds of stuff happening. But in the grand tradition of various caption contests that take place on the internet, we want you to post your best caption of what people are saying in this photo or what's happening in this photo. You can, unlike previous contests where we just wanted you to email us, you can actually post your caption to our Instagram or Facebook post when we throw up the contest announcement, or you can still just email it to us at our Gmail if you want. But sometimes it's fun to see the running entries of everyone's captions as they go along. And next episode, we will go over the captions, and similar to what we've been doing, we'll select a winner.
Yeah, sounds great, Ian.
Sure does. And thanks to the magic of editing, you guys don't know why that's funny if you weren't here. So, look forward to your guys' entries on that one. Man, we did a lot of Caption This contests for Cardboard of the Rings, and those were always just like, it's such a good return on your investment for how easy it is to just throw down a little one-liner. So I'm looking forward to seeing what people come up with.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving on from there. Obviously, you have until next episode to get entered on that one. I'm sure Ian covered that. So we'll move on to patron news. Ian?
Okay, so first off, thanks to our now 13 board members. Yes, we somehow filled all 13 of our slots. So that is a big thanks to Chris B, Chris H, Chris U, Cyclos, Alex, Ian, Kyle, Philip, Dave, Abilio, Nathan, Chad, and Robert. Thanks so much for huge contributions to what we're doing. And our board is now once again full.
How? How though?
I don't know. I think when we talked about it, I was like, it'll be a few months down the road. It'll be filled up. But yeah, it's full already. So
you guys rock. We love you.
Yeah. So if you missed out, we don't have any announcements right now about whether or if we'll be opening more in the future. But, as always, feel free to chime in with your thoughts on that subject. So special shout out to a random patron this time around is Michael Jones. Thank you, Michael, for your support. As always, our Gen Con reminder, we are having our special Mythos Busters event on the Saturday of Gen Con at 1 p.m., followed by that Saturday night, our After Dark event at the Slippery Noodle, where we will be getting together and letting loose and playing party games and all kinds of good stuff. And for a big, important patron announcement, I think I'll go ahead and hand it off to Scott. He should be the one to do this announcement.
I agree.
Oh, so I have good and bad news about the musical episode. The bad news is this isn't it. The good news is it is done.
Done! Completed!
Yes.
Finite!
I had a just a stroke of luck and time where in 2 days I think I ended up counting it was 19 hours of editing in 2 days, which hurt me.
Man, you were going hard, man. I like props. Like, everyone put work into the musical episode, but Scott, you fully deserve like 80% of all attendant credit. So thank you for managing this particular project. I think this has come out brilliantly. It's just as dumb as we were hoping, and
also just as amazing.
Yes, simultaneously.
So the plan is, my goal that I said, I was like, I'm going to be done by Canada Day, which is July 1st. So July 1st, there's a few little levels I'm still tweaking just slightly because I'm neurotic about that. But July 1st, we are going to release it to patrons. So on the Patreon website, you'll get a link to it. And then over the next few weekends, we're going to do live shows of it. So we'll have it on our Discord. We're not going to put it on YouTube or Twitch because I think we'll get like copyright struck because we use a lot
There's a good chance.
Yeah. But basically live showing. So the plan is as many of us will be in the not voice chat. What's the chat called? Just chat? Type chat?
We'll just be in the text chat.
Text chat. Yeah. There we go.
We'll be part of the audience, essentially.
Yeah, it's a listening party, like a watching party. Yeah. Over the next few weekends, and we'll try and get different times because I'm sure our European listeners don't want to stay up till 4 a.m. To listen to this masterpiece. But we'll try and like balance the time. So yeah, and then it will be released.
And just
later.
So everyone knows exactly what kind of commitment you're talking about, if you want to hop in on this, it's less than an hour. So it's nothing heavy. We'll probably talk for a little bit, so probably plan for an hour.
Yeah, it's 53 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you say less than an hour, you need to be more specific than that, because it's pretty close to an hour.
Under an hour. Let's go just under an hour.
It's pretty much, hey, look, we finally did an episode under an hour, okay? So
And it was the hardest one to do.
I know. And how many hours of production went into it? God.
it's easily over 100 person hours of work.
Yeah, for sure.
Easily. I actually
That's
want
like
to count it
700
up one
dog
day.
hours.
I put 20 hours into my songs alone, plus all the other work that was minimal. Scott put a ton of hours in. Anyway,
There is
Scott, it's
there is
silly
one
how much-
segment that is 3.5 minutes long that took me 2.5 hours to edit.
oh, but it came out so well.
It
That's
did,
yeah. That's,
but it's not even like the recording or anything. That was just piecing things together. It
Yeah.
was just.
Yeah, no, you did a
Oh my
phenomenal
God.
job with that one. You really did.
I'm really excited. Feel free to @ me in Discord when you finally hear it, patrons, and let me know what you think. But
And Scott, if someone is not already a patron and is not going to make it to one of our live listening parties, how might they come across this disaster?
we are
piece?
gonna disaster beast. We're gonna release it in the wild shortly before Arkham Knights, and for thematic reasons. Mm-hmm. Thematic reasons. Yep.
Yeah,
see.
and
So-
if you basically any level of being a patron from $1 up, so if you suddenly decide to become a patron, then you will have access to it at that point.
Yeah.
Yep. So any patrons will have access to it at any time to download it. If you're not a patron, you won't be able to download it, but you can attend one of these live shows to listen to it, and then later on you will get access to downloading it when we release it to the general public.
And
it's
I'm
just
sure.
basically as like a thank you to the patrons, because they're
Yes.
the ones that like paid us to do this, essentially. And
Yeah.
we wanna,
Yeah. So
say
we
thanks.
wanted to give
So-
them special privileges, I guess.
yeah.
Well, yeah. So I'm so excited for it. But anyway, catch that when it comes out. I'm sure we'll be talking about it for the next few episodes. So
When will the CD be out? You know,
something copyright strike.
yeah. Or the movie. Oh God. The
Working
movie
on that.
episode. Yeah. Musical episode 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Man, I really wish I knew how to do like the animations that people do on like people have done animations of Hamilton and stuff like but yeah.
Oh, I wonder how hard would it be to get it put on cassette tape?
Probably not as hard as you think.
I don't know. Where's the nearest pawn shop?
Yeah.
Or what about like actually vinyl? Gotta get this thing pressed.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
I mean, no amount of warm acoustic sounds that come from vinyl can save the fact that we had fairly amateur audio production for our songs.
It's a masterpiece and it's beautiful.
I
Can't
agree.
wait for everyone to hear it.
I agree. All right, excellent. So let's move it on then to community highlight for the week. Nick, what you got?
For community, this was actually added by another one of our hosts. I'm not sure who, but I looked.
This was
at
added
it.
by me.
Oh, good
Ian,
one,
what you
Ian.
got?
This is really good.
Yeah, I could have left you hanging for longer, but I will be nice. So this is a recent series of video plays called Winging It. So if you go on YouTube and search for the Winging It channel, and this is done by Chet in our Discord, who often is a active participant. And so the cool thing about this video play series is that it's done with actual cards, which I don't know if I know of another one other than our friend Brandon in his Optimal Play series, where he's playing with his group with actual cards. But this is a solo video play with actual cards, but he is doing two-handed campaign because I know he said he wanted to focus on kind of two-handed plays, since that's also something that's not often shown in kind of video playthroughs. So yeah, so I recommend going to Winging It and checking out those videos. He recently started a TCU campaign with Diane and Preston, which I'm also running that combo through TCU. So I have a campaign with that going on too. It's a good combo. What was that?
Oh, sorry, I have one too. It's a good combo.
Yeah. For some reason, I've seen quite a few people pairing those two together. But yeah, I agree. I think they work well together. Network and chat and a few others are mentioning that the Twisted Tentacle also does real cards. That's right. I forgot. So don't want to deny him his credit either. But yeah,
they're not real cards.
All right.
Are they really real cards? Do we know that?
We're on to you, Twisted Tentacle.
All right. Excellent. So no news for the week, y'all?
Nope.
None.
Okay. So Scott, do you have any rules PSAs for us?
I do, and this one is it's kind of funny. There's a little lesson behind it, but honestly, I just think it's hilarious. So there's this card in the game. It actually comes in the core set. What's it called? Ancient Evils or something? It's some card that shows up once in a while.
Big tentacles exploding.
That's the one. And it makes you place a Doom, can advance, all that stuff, right? Everyone knows that. In Return to Dunwich, it was replaced with Resurgent Evils, which is Peril, and you must either choose draw the top 2 cards of the encounter deck or basically do an Ancient Evils. And a lot of people have been like, oh, draw the top 2 cards. Usually that seems like a decent way to go about it. But the card has Peril, and I didn't realize this at first until I was chatting with some other people on our Discord. But if you draw those top 2 cards of the encounter deck, because you're resolving the text on Resurgent Evils, those 2 cards now also have Peril. Because you are doing it while resolving a Peril card. So this card just got a lot worse. Yeah.
Gross.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, because I know absolutely there's been times where I've played and I draw the first card and someone else cancels it, or it's an enemy and we're like, oh, where should we put this? And yeah. So
if you're used to playing multiplayer and you're upgrading your wards and you're using Test of Will, like that can really matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
all right.
So this isn't related to the Peril bit, but have any of you guys ever Resurgent Evils into Resurgent Evils?
Yes.
I did it once, and that was when I stopped drawing the 2 cards. And I was like, it's fine. It can just be Ancient Evils.
Yeah. Anyways, that was it. I just think it's really funny how those top 2 cards also get Peril, which makes a lot of cards worse.
Sure does. Though I will say it makes some cards way better. As much as I hate Peril sometimes, God, as a mechanic on the right treachery, it's so good.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, cool. So guys, then let's move it into our main discussion topic. Let's talk about the secret name. So spoiler alert for the Circle Undone campaign. If you haven't got through the secret name and the Wages of Sin, now's the time to put the old pause button on under your finger. Under your fingers where you want that. Okay, cool. Everyone's cool. So let's talk about player cards first. Any notables?
Intel report?
This was the multi-class pack, was it not?
It was, yeah.
That's notable.
Yeah, definitely agree about Intel report. I've been using that one quite a bit with a few different investigators.
I think it makes Preston a lot better.
It sure does.
Yep.
I just used it in Skids, because we included it in that Skids build, and it was great. Like all of a sudden 4 resources, and you're just swiping 2 clues, and that's it done. It's a really good card. Of the multi-class cards, do you guys find there is one or more that you find yourself using more often, and why is it Enchanted Blade?
I was just gonna say Enchanted Blade.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
It's
Enchanted Blade's good. But Tennessee Sour Mash is pretty good. Like, it's not amazing, but helping with those encounter cards is nice.
Yeah.
And
I find the 3 cost to be a little bit of a barrier sometimes, don't you?
It can be. Yeah, it can be. And then I include the Thompson into a couple of Guardian decks, but I haven't actually slapped it on table yet.
I have used the Thompson more than I thought I was going to, and I think that's I don't think it fits into as many builds as something like Enchanted Blade, but in my big money Jenny deck, because I'm basically taking the approach that like she's a dual-handed weapon with her own signature weapon, so I'll lean into that, and so I'm using the Thompson as well, and yeah, that +2 makes a big difference if you can afford it.
Right, yeah, that's kind of the thing too. Like building a Guardian deck, I totally steered the conversation away from Enchanted Blade, so I apologize about that. But building a Guardian deck, I realized that
I'll chop you nape to navel.
Okay, I'm so used to building decks that are like big experience decks because I play a lot of standalone, and I realize that building level 0 decks, I don't have access to a lot of the big guns, and Thompson is one of those. It's a level 0 big gun, and it's decent. If you can pay for it, like you said. But I mean, it's for a level 0 two-handed firearm. I'm pretty happy with it overall.
Remind me, does it have 5 ammo or 4?
5.
Okay, so there is value over the Thompson, or over the 45 rather, with the Thompson.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
I think my favorite card out of this pack is, and not just because I aligned myself with Survivor, but Meat Cleaver is
I agree
such a
on
good
that.
card.
Survivor has fun weapons, man. Like fire axe.
Oh, like hunting rifle.
Well, they can't all be zingers.
Well, that's the thing, because it was basically like fire axe and not much else, because baseball bat's too unreliable, and so it's nice that Meat Cleaver gives another really solid option.
Yeah.
Well, and
really good in Silas.
Really good in Silas. Really good in Zoe. It's just really cool. Survivor, the weapons always ask something of you, but if you're fine with that ask, then they're great weapons. Like Fire Axe would come to mind. Like, if you're fine riding between 3 and 0 resources most of the time, it's a pretty good weapon. Like, with, oh my god, blanking, Meat Cleaver, as long as you can handle the horror. If you're running Pete, or just have some other way to mitigate the horror, it's good for 3 cost.
Yep. Like if you're trying to run a desperate deck.
Sure.
Run some desperate skills.
I haven't tried it in Calvin yet. Is it good in Calvin? Because while you're fighting, you can get better at investigating. So that's cool.
I mean, it's all right.
Okay. I think I can count the number of games I've played with Calvin on one hand pretty easily. So.
I think that was Scott answering about if Calvin is all right or not.
That was a little loaded, wasn't it?
Yeah, I still love playing Calvin, but reliable, he is not always that.
No. I like him in standalone. I'm not a fan of him in campaign.
Okay.
I like Sign Magic just because it makes my deck controlled or bag controlled gym work better. So.
Yeah, anyone who wants to run a lot of spells, like this basically is like add 3 costs to your spell, and now you've got an extra spell slot. I love the fact that that's fast so much.
And I was like, I'm so glad that we finally have a card that gives us an extra arcane slot. And then I saw Book of Shadows. I was like, this is still the first one. Like, I don't care that Book of Shadows exists. Sign Magic is still the first one.
Still not counting it.
Yes,
that's valid. I can appreciate that. Okay, so moving on to the scenario itself. So it bears mentioning, for anyone who's a fan of Dreams in the Witch House, this was a romp, I think. Agree? Ian, I'm talking mostly to you.
Yeah. I've definitely been on record as being that's my favorite Lovecraft story, so...
So the interesting thing here, I thought, as someone who plays a lot of Mystic, there is actually a little bit of extra content in here if you happen to be playing a Mystic classed investigator, which is a first. And I liked it. And that's all.
Wait, what was that? Did I not see that part?
Oh, Scott has never played a Mystic.
No, I did. I just
there's a little narrative text blurb in there that you can only read if you're a Mystic.
Yeah,
but everyone's going to do it anyway.
Hide the info from the
from
the lodge.
Oh, okay. I probably didn't get that with with my Diana run. This is the first time I've ran a Mystic through it, so.
That's true, yeah. For intro 3 is where it is, and you have to be lying to the lodge.
Yeah, no, I'm an enemy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you could still be lying to the lodge. It's just you're not near the lodge. You're just
Right.
Yeah, they're not asking
Yeah.
you questions.
really wasn't as funny after I said it out loud. So
I mean, for the cycle that has both Diana and Preston in it, I feel like lying to the lodge is the canon path, right?
It's definitely my favorite path for sure, just because I'm curious how that's all going to play out.
Yes. So curious. Okay. So moving on from there, just the scenario itself, I think, is interesting. The enemy selection is very light, and the scenario just kind of actually relies on recurring one Brown Jenkin
And rats in general.
and rats
Swole
in general.
And the
rats.
hob. Just recurs everything. So much recursion.
Like, there's only 6 enemies, I think, in the entire encounter deck at any given time. Like, at most.
there's 4. It's 3 copies of Rats and Brown Jenkin, right?
Nahab goes in at some point.
Oh, so 5.
So 5. So
Yeah.
5 enemies in the entire encounter deck, and is it just me? Does it always feel like you're always bogged down by enemies?
Yeah. And yet. I posted this in our
yet.
chat the other day, but I was recently playing, I mentioned I was playing Standalone, but I played Standalone Leo. And in the first 8 rounds, I had to deal with 5 separate instances of rats.
Yeah.
5 out of 8. That is, like, for how light it is, I feel like I have to deal with way more enemies in this scenario than almost any other scenario in the game.
Now, as much as there aren't that many enemies, there are 3 treacheries that go fetch Brown Jenkin and 2 that go fetch Nahab. So you have another, 5 cards that essentially function as enemies.
And there are location texts that fetch rats.
And act and agenda.
Text. Yeah.
There's only 5 enemies, but they come back.
And
over
they're all
and over and
swole.
over and over and over. Yeah, they're all swole.
Yeah, yeah.
So, loath as I am to bring it up, I feel like we have to take a minute to talk about the design of Brown Jenkin.
Okay.
Because I think that he is a bigger deterrent than an actual threat. I think as long as you're not holding on to really clutch cards that you absolutely need for the next few turns, the amount of energy you can expend trying to defeat him is often not proportional to the amount of hurt he applies if he just discards your hand and draws you a bunch of cards. Yes, he gets you closer to decking out and getting a little bit of horror. And this scenario is really long, so that matters maybe a little bit more.
Yeah. I can see where you're going, but I think that's too dependent on the investigator that you're playing.
Sure.
Because when my wife and I were playing as Preston and Rita, R.I.P. that campaign, we every time he hit table, I was like, take care. I'm Preston. I'm like, you take care of that. You lock that shit down. Because I didn't want to lose my hand, and we were already both so low on horror, and we were usually both rocking 1 to 2 treacheries in our threat area that were when the deck runs out, get fucked. So
Brown Jenkin very much reminds me of some of the hidden treacheries in Carcosa, that he's not a problem until he is, he's something that I sometimes just leave on the board, and then later is when it really starts hampering you. But I will say in general, I really like Brown Jenkin's design.
Color me surprised.
It's a different kind of enemy design than we've really seen, and I like that aspect of it, that it's not just some big monster to fight, but he's just a nuisance. It's some other elements of this scenario that I'm maybe not as big a fan of, but Brown Jenkin design actually I like.
So this scenario is kind of built on 2 specific acts, I'd say. The first one is you're exploring the witch house.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is you're exploring everywhere else.
Beyond the witch house, if you will.
Yes.
And the operative word in that, Sean, especially for the second half of the scenario, is explore. Does everybody remember explore? Remember how fun that was? Because you're going to be doing it again. Not really,
there are no
but really.
treacheries in there this time.
Sure. I mean, that helped.
Yeah.
That takes some of the sting off of it.
It felt to me it was more like a mix of explore and the the Miskatonic Museum. Like it didn't.
Sure. Yep.
And I honestly I can see what you're saying with the explore.
Awaits.
Yeah, but it didn't feel like too much like explore because again, the treacheries aren't in there. Like it's just like, okay, I need to do this thing and I get a location, not I need to do this thing and maybe I get totally boned. Like
Yeah, I think what it did do is to a scenario that is already soaking you with enemies like we talked about, and then it's also soaking you with this added that you have to take actions to reveal the locations instead of just going to them. So that's like another layer of soaking your actions. So I think that's with the secret name why it's so difficult for a lot of people, including myself, is it is just super action intensive, especially solo.
well, I think the fact that you get to move to that location though, I mean,
Sure.
instead of taking the action of just moving, you just have to pass a test. Now I say just pass a test.
Right,
That's all you gotta
exactly.
do. That's it.
It's like just pass a test if you don't have the treachery, if you don't have bedeviled in your threat area preventing you from doing it
Yeah.
to begin with.
Yeah.
If you don't have racked making it harder.
And if you fail that test to reveal, then you have to do a haunted effect.
Yeah, oh god, yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. Which is get a hex card.
Yeah.
That would just make it harder. Literally
Exactly.
make it harder.
But if you just pass that test,
You just pass it. So this is how you beat secret name, and it should be no surprise to anybody. Bring a
Get
seeker
good, noob.
yeah.
or that.
Yeah, high intellect. And that's another thing, speaking of action intensive, is I haven't done the analysis, but I feel like this has to be the most clue intensive scenario in the game.
Oh, it requires so many.
It feels like it's
so
up
many
there.
clues.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you need
many.
serious staying power in your clue acquisition. I've run through this a couple times with investigators who don't traditionally investigate as much and kind of rely on things like Drawn to the Flame or Scene of the Crime or like your little tricks that normally will get you by, or even like Rite of Seeking. And oh man, getting through this scenario requires like I've got to draw through my deck and try to get my Rite of Seeking back. I'm out of options.
Yeah.
It's really long. I don't know if we
Bring
need-
Quantum Flux or whatever that card's called.
This was real rough for my solo Rita.
Yeah, Alter Fate. Thoth brings up in the chat. I think that's a really good card in this one because is that a fast card? I'm pretty sure it's a fast card. Just lets you discard an encounter card
I think so.
or a treachery.
Yes, it is fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Pretty
Alter
good.
Fate for all of TCU, pretty much.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, whenever I play TCU scenarios, like, you know, on TTS, they give you, like, 4 slots in your threat area. Yeah, I'm always going beyond that, usually. I need another row.
Dude, I for our social media and just to keep stuff in my mind, I've been trying to take at least one picture every time I play a scenario. Every time I play Secret Name, my inclination is to take a picture of it. Look all the treacheries! Look at them all!
Network 57 actually mentions this as well in the chat because you guys are mentioning the clue heaviness. Get all the clues you can before advancing. Like, don't
Yes.
advance right away. Get those, quote, easy to get clues so
Yes.
that when you get into the later part of the scenario, you're just like, yeah, I got a ton of clues. Like my Diana one, I walked into the final location and I had enough actions to just be like, boop, boop, end the scenario.
Yeah,
So,
the tricky part about that, I 100% agree, but the tricky part is I've gotten in. There's been at least 2 games I can think of where you get stuck in this kind of holding pattern where I'm not quite ready because you keep getting hit by these treacheries that are taking away actions or whatnot. So okay, I can't go into the sacrifice site yet. I can't advance. Let me wait another turn. Okay, I gotta wait another turn. Okay, I gotta wait another turn. And you just get caught in this like hamster wheel. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go now. And of course you get hit again. Especially because I think it's called the site of sacrifice, the last location, as the haunted effect to lose an action.
Nope. So sacrifice is either put a doom on Nahab or Nahab attacks you.
There is one though with a lose in action. I think.
I think it's the Witch House Ruins, which is the one before you get there. Okay, yeah. So basically, what ends up happening is I keep getting the treachery that resolves the haunted effect at the start of your turn. And so basically I'm capped out in Witch House Ruins, waiting to advance, and then I keep getting hit by that, which is taking away an action. So I'm like, okay, I can't go to the site of sacrifice yet because I need my full 3 actions, and yeah, it's rough. It's been a thing for me.
Does anyone have a favorite unknown place?
Moldy Halls.
Yes. Okay, that was
Yep.
Request aid from your past self.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
There is an encounter card in the base set of Eldritch Horror that I can't help but freak out anytime anyone draws it, and it's always the one where all of a sudden you find yourself peeking out of your closet at your baby self, and almost get yourself shot by your dad because all of a sudden you're in your baby room.
Yeah.
Like that sort of just weird abstract time travel always tickles me. So I'm a big fan. Did we ever find that there's an effect to meddling with the past in this scenario? I can't remember if there's anything that actually refers to it.
I have not found it yet.
Okay, so I think that might be a scare tactic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a red herring, or it's like in the 7th scenario of the campaign.
No, but it's a remember. It's not a. It's not a record.
It's a remember.
Yeah, so it would have to be in this scenario for it to matter.
So it's a luggage.
You have stolen your own luggage. I'll take that, please.
That'd be great if one of the Elsewhere, Otherworld, or whatever the heck those are called was the luggage car.
You're inside the luggage.
And it's like, check the campaign log from Dunwich. If you stole the luggage, lose 3 resources or something.
According to your campaign log that you're now playing the Dunwich Legacy.
But only Essex County Express and 8 times.
Oh god,
that's the new campaign.
I also loved that
fastest campaign ever.
We hop into the City of Elder things because anytime Mountains of Madness gets referenced, I'm always a fan. Like,
yeah,
I'm sure eventually we'll get Mountains of Madness as a location, but I do appreciate that it's been in both. The Plateau of Leng was in Shattered Aeons, right?
I believe so. That
yeah. And City of Elder things is here. All right. So any notable encounter cards you think, I know we've talked about a fair few of them at this point, but what are the ones you guys think kind of define this scenario?
Meddlesome Familiar is the one I put on there, which we talked about. Yeah. That's the one that fetches Brown Jenkins if he's not in play. Or fetches a swarm of rats.
And one thing I like that you were talking about, Sean, where you said, is Brown Jenkins just more of an annoyance? And
he's a mental game.
I was like, yeah, you know what? He's just meddlesome. Mm-hmm. Like, this card is just perfectly titled because he's just like, should I deal with this or not? And it's just, he's there, and it's just, he's annoying. He's meddling. And the theme hit on that one is awesome.
Yeah.
And the way the locations are set up is that he's almost always got access to you, and it's really obnoxious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing for my precious evade investigators. For a lot of these TCU scenarios, I'm finding is that there's not a lot of cases where you're like more than one connection away. So hunter enemies just find you immediately in most TCU scenarios, and Secret Name is definitely that.
And then I think the last shout out I'd throw out is to Strange Geometry. Yep. I do love a good location encounter card.
Yeah.
Bringing me back to my Lord of the Rings days. And also, like, if you read Dreams in the Witch House, is it Gilman? Gilman's the narrator?
Mm-hmm.
When he goes exploring, the book is just, or the story is just so descriptive and yet not descriptive about what he sees, and, like, Strange Geometry is just, like, the best way to put it, so I really like the theme of that card. Okay, so moving on to resolutions. You guys like the black book? How often do you take the black book?
I take it quite often.
I find the skull isn't that big an ask, and it's a really good little item.
Yeah,
it's
like 2 stat boosts, and even if you don't use the cost reduction at all, the stat boosts are...
I don't think I've ever used the cost reduction because this is Arkham Horror, the card game, and the horror comes in hot and heavy as it is.
If I were playing Carolyn, maybe. But yeah, I agree. I use this. If I see this in my opening hand, it's almost a windmill slam down. Like, when are you not going to use willpower and intellect in this campaign?
I also like that you just get it when it comes out, because as we mentioned, the longevity that you have to achieve in your clue acquisition is just insane. So getting just like a quick free, if you have an open hand slot, intellect boost is quite valuable in that moment, I feel. Okay, so the resolutions here are basically you either beat it or you don't. If you don't, there's differing resolutions based on how far you got, which I think is actually kind of a theme for TCU. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I think so.
just Arkham in general has kind of throughout the
fair.
campaigns we've progressed to not having necessarily like binary resolutions, but rather more of a gradient.
Yeah, and I have noticed, particularly with these 2 scenarios, but a lot of the TCU scenarios, they don't seem to be punishing you super heavily for failing, except for like with some of these mementos that you lose out on getting, which it's hard to judge right now how impactful that's going to be.
Because I feel like these are finally going to start to matter in the next 2 scenarios, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because they haven't mattered much yet.
So it might be a very different conversation where we're like, oh, you really need to get that crucifix or whatever.
All right. So I think it's also worth noting that if you manage to get through Secret Name, and I think, can we, I'm sure everyone's surmised, and if you've played it, you know, but can we all agree this one's probably the hardest one in the campaign thus far?
Yes.
Ooh,
really?
I think so.
Scott breathed in. What would you say is harder? You think Wages is harder?
I actually think Wages of Sin.
Well, see, the problem is this one is like you have to get to a certain resolution and make it that far. Wages is
you're
like
locked in.
Wages is like how far can you get, but you can back out fairly easily. So it's kind of hard to compare them, I suppose.
I guess for the biggest thing for me between this and Wages of Sin was like with this one, I feel like the finish line was in sight and I felt like I could get there. I just didn't necessarily actually get there. But with Wages of Sin, like once those heretics hit the table and the first time I flipped one over and read the back, I was like, I gotta do this for all of them? Like this isn't gonna happen. Like, oh my God. So that feels like a world. And I know you don't need to, obviously, but when I think of like, quote unquote, succeeding, I think it's much harder to succeed in Wages of Sin than it is in Secret Name.
And I honestly think it's a real mind game for your scenarios like Midnight Masks or Boundary Beyond, where your brain wants to complete everything.
Right.
But the scenario is mostly set up so that you can't. And it's...
Oh, totally.
I just feel like it's tough.
I think for me, I don't know if it's a question of straight difficulty, but maybe frustration level. Like Secret Name tends to frustrate me more because at least with Wages of Sin, even if I'm doing badly, I at least feel like I have some kind of momentum, even if that momentum is leading me towards the resign. Whereas Secret Name, I've had a couple of games that are just Rat City. Just every turn fight a new rat. Every turn fight a new rat. And it's just, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just spinning in place. So I'm just curious about your guys' thoughts on the difficulty of this one. I don't want to start another Boundary Beyond Saltfest discussion, but I am curious how you, because we did have a whole thing, and I think people remember that. Like, how do you feel different? Do you guys feel differently about Secret Name than you do about Boundary Beyond?
For me personally, well, then I did Boundary Beyond.
Or just difficult scenarios. Like, do you think this is too difficult? Is it beyond the sweet spot?
I've come to expect the fourth or fifth scenario of a campaign to just be just a brick wall. And I know this is the third one technically, but if you include the prologue, then Secret Name is the fourth one. And thus,
if
my
you add or
theory
subtract
holds...
numbers, you can make them into different numbers.
Exactly. And so thus, my theory holds true that the fourth scenario in every campaign has been a little bit of a difficulty spike. It's still kind of annoying, but at the same time, like, that level of annoyance, I could attribute a good portion of that to just my chaos draws, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or the encounter card draws and stuff like that. When it becomes variable, I don't really like hold it against the scenario. Boundary Beyond was interesting because it required a specific, you know, like how it was originally written was you needed to hard investigate to progress. And at the time, there weren't, you know, we don't need to dig up that conversation again. Whereas this one, it kind of comes down, like, this is asking you to do a lot of things kind of at once. And the more you kind of cheese around some of those things, the harder it gets as you go on. But with good draws, you know what I mean? I guess, I don't know. I guess I'm okay with this one being harder. Then again, I've also played it 6 times now, so I don't know. I don't even know where I'm just talking myself in circles. Someone else talk.
I agree that this one's really hard, and particularly in lower player counts. It is just super tough to try to manage Nahab and Brown Jenkin at the same time, plus whatever rats happen to be crawling around. But as we've noted, I think that with the increased difficulty, there is also a softening of the blow of not making it to the, you know, best ending.
Yeah.
I think it feels like, and maybe I'm wrong, but at least with these 2 scenarios that we're covering tonight, it feels like dooming out on the last agenda isn't as cataclysmic in these scenarios as it has been traditionally for any other one.
Yeah, and it also feels... And some people might feel like this is a cop-out and me saying, like, oh, you're just supposed to lose. Like, but I feel like narratively it makes sense that the witch house, like, kicks your ass and, like, you lose and you just wake up like, what the hell just happened? And because that resolution doesn't really do anything extra special bad to you, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel as bad as Boundary Beyond for some reason, but then when I've had those games that I've just been stuck, it has felt pretty bad. The ones where I'm just spinning my wheels with rats, and it might be just the case that I still haven't quite cracked the best strategy of how to deal with all these moving parts, and maybe that's why I'm not too sour on it yet, because I feel like there's something I'm just not quite getting as far as how to best approach it. Or maybe it's just because I like the witch house setting. I don't know.
Oh, I was thinking where Doom awaits. Boundary Beyond. Oh, okay. No. I'm sorry. I am going to dig up that conversation.
I was about to say, hang on, we're back to the part. Go on.
I'll be quick. My issue with Boundary Beyond is that you make progress and then it gets stolen from you. When you get those locations out, you clear them of clues, and then they go away. Like they literally get, you know, flipped back to whatever.
You have the choice of them getting flipped, yes, but yeah.
Well, but sometimes it's not a choice, right? So that's my issue with Boundary Beyond is that you have to claw your way to make progress, and then it can easily get just ripped out from you. Whereas Secret Name, you have to claw your way, but it's always still mostly in one direction. You know what I mean? Like, you never get sent from the other world back into the original witch house, then have to find your way to the other world again. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's probably just a psychological thing for me and not anything about the scenario itself. But yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's also different in that, part of my issue kind of going along with that with Boundary Beyond is that now it's just a case of, like, get my 1 or 2 and just camp here and wait for it to advance, and then it doesn't really even matter that much for the following scenarios, so, like, why am I doing this? Whereas Secret Name, it's still like, even if you're not making much progress, you still have a clear goal that you're heading towards, and it's not a thing of like, let me just camp here and wait for my doom to overtake me.
Right, like even though it can sometimes feel like a slog, you still are incentivized to keep going, or at least keep trying to go. Whereas it just kind of feels like there's kind of a cop out, don't engage with me thing going on with Boundary Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. I'm pretty middling on Secret Name as a scenario. I think it's got some really cool ideas. A couple things I'm going to throw out there. I think in low player counts, Brown Jenkin, you probably don't engage with him as often as you want to. Like, you want to just not deal with that. Like, you want to engage him, you want to attack him, you want to kill him, you want to get rid of it. But I think in general, it's a little bit of an action trap. I'm still testing that theory. I don't play solo very often.
Depends on I feel like I should just go by depends on the investigator, because that's what I say all the time now. Well, it depends on the investigator.
Mm-hmm.
In a vacuum with a well-rounded investigator, if you're playing solo, I know this is a useless argument because there's so many variables.
Right. The chaos bag, the encounter card draw. But yeah, I'd say if you can just at least evade him or exhaust him in some way and then just stay ahead of him, you're fine. But the problem is the map isn't that big, especially when you progress from the witch house. Like, the map is then you got a location, maybe 2 by the end of that, turn. So then your options of staying away from him are not really there.
Yeah. See, I pop him every single time.
That's what I tend to as well, and I think that's just the Guardian in me.
Even in solo though, because in solo especially, if you get like a couple rats out, like if you've just been ignoring them and you get a couple rats out, now you're in like Hurt Town. Whereas yeah, I don't know. I agree. It is also a huge sink, right? And it depends on the encounter card draw and stuff like that. Because there was like in one of my solo
blanket qualifying statement.
Yeah, I drew Brown Jenkin. I killed him that turn. Takes 2 actions, right? Engage, pop him. Next one was Meddling Familiar. The next turn, okay, kill him again. Next card, Meddling Familiar. I was like, okay, like, and I mean that's a huge time sink. That's also a really weird draw.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I
have a feeling that's happened to a lot of people because
I'm sure.
But the other option could have been him out and then 2 swole rats.
Exactly.
And
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And now I'm going to Pound Town. Like,
but he gives the agenda gives the rats plus health, and he gives them plus fight, right?
Yeah. That's the thing. There's so many kind of balancing factors. Like, I've tried both approaches, like popping him as soon as he comes up and just leaving him on the table, and both have had their kind of big disadvantages. That it's kind of finely balanced, because with Meddlesome Familiar, if you, like Scott was mentioning, if you leave him on the board, then that treachery is going to summon rats, which having rats plus Brown Jakin is bad. If you don't have him on the board, then it's just going to keep recycling Brown Jenkin, which also doesn't feel great, but at least it's not rats. So I don't know. But then if you're taking time to take out Brown Jenkin all the time, you're just really not progressing, and the scenario's asking you to get so many clues.
Yeah. I felt like I was playing a game of Sentinels of the Multiverse for a little bit there, because I was like, okay, they all have +1 health. Okay, now he's ready. So now they have +2 fight again. And now the agenda advanced, they have +2 health. But now I exhausted him, so the +2 fight goes away. And if I can keep him exhausted, they still have +1. It's like, oh my god.
The sweeping board effects get exhausting sometimes.
Yeah, I was exhausted. And it didn't help that my first few games, I was making a big mistake, probably because there were so many effects, that I was having Brown Jenkin boost Nahab's fight. So
oh my god.
So she was I was like in our Discord like, Nahab is so hard, and finally people pointed out that she's not a creature, so she doesn't get boosted. So
she's a witch rat.
So I could technically replay those ones, but I just took the result.
Yeah. I can see later on in the scenario where Brown Jenkin is like 3 or 4 health, but maybe you try to deal with him a different way. But I think early on in this scenario, when he's 2 health and it's just an easy pop, I don't know.
Yeah,
for sure. An experience.
I suppose that's the biggest qualifier, is that the threat and the cost to deal with the threat changes throughout the scenario. So I think that's kind of the game of it, is you have to really be realistic of how much is this actually hurting me versus how much I think it's hurting me, and how much is it going to take me to get rid of this 4 health enemy now versus, earlier on a 1 or 2 health enemy. All said, though, I think Secret Name's a really cool scenario. It's got some cool things going on. I will be very interested to revisit my opinion of it when the campaign is wrapped and I know what it all means.
I think that's kind of like the story for me of this entire campaign.
Agree.
Yeah.
I am thoroughly loving the campaign. It's just I'm like, what's going on? Well, I guess I'll just play the next scenario.
It's kind of uncomfortable to have to RP for so long without getting any payoff. Mechanical payoff.
Especially for someone who like in this game, I'm not super RP, right? I'm like, what makes the most logical decision for my deck to do in this scenario? But it's no scenario has fallen flat yet for me in this campaign.
That's true. I would agree. There are hard ones and there's frustrating
moments. Some of them
moments.
have knocked me flat.
Yes.
Yes, but there's not been like,
at least there's a game of
that
it.
happened.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a Heart of the Elders yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to Wages of Sin, player cards. So I'll just go ahead and call out the obvious one here. Turns out that if
Henry
you're playing...
Wan? Oh, no.
Henry Wan.
I don't want to talk about that one. If you're playing an investigator who's got a particularly high stat, like a printed 5 in something, Drawing Thin is pretty damn good. And if you've got an investigator who's got any other stat, Drawing Thin is pretty damn good.
Drawing Thin is pretty good.
It's just good in general. Yeah, I particularly like using it for just treacheries that like I'm gonna fail this anyway, so just bump it and give me my resources.
I was gonna say, are you tired of committing Take Heart and then succeeding? Just play Drawing Thin.
Why not draw 2 cards and gain 4 resources?
Yeah.
And it's 0 cost and no slot. Like, when I saw this, I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm never playing Rabbit's Foot again.
Yeah.
0 cost, no slot. You could still potentially succeed the test. It's a ridiculously good card. I'm not sure I think it needs it at this point, but it wouldn't surprise me to see this hit the mutated list at some point.
Oh, it's gonna get tabooed.
Yeah.
Like,
what do you think is going to happen? Give it an experience cost? Give it
the
a
old taboo
slot?
train is a rolling. Choo choo, motherfucker.
I think limit 1 in play is a good way to start.
Oh yeah, that's jeez. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Okay, so besides Drawing Thin, which I think is universally agreed to be a very good card, anything else you guys would call out from the player cards and Wages of Sin?
I think
Sense.
I was gonna say I think Wither and Sixth Sense, like, I don't want to be hyperbolic here, but change the Mystic solo game. Like,
I agree with Sixth Sense. Wither, I think, is a little bit more marginal.
fair enough. Yeah, I should say Sixth. I think Wither is still just really good, but
No
Sixth
charges
Sense
is nothing to sneeze at.
yeah, no charge spells.
Yeah. When I was building my Akachi deck, I was like, ooh, I'm so excited to use all these new spells. Then I look at them all, I'm like, none of these have charges. I'm going to stay away from those.
I did a solo Akachi run, and it's tough. Oh, because Sixth Sense is so good, but it's like, there's
But
almost
for
no
solo,
point.
I think even in Akachi, I think Sixth Sense is better than Rite of Seeking for solo, even in Akachi.
I would tend to agree.
Like,
I'd
yeah.
agree. Yeah.
But guys, like, who cares if it doesn't get a charge? It's unlimited charges.
Yep.
You're
Yeah, exactly.
right, but when I'm building it for 2-player and I'm looking at like how I'm setting up her deck, like I was like, I don't know, maybe
I still
I'm
think
wrong.
Sixth Sense though. Like if you have someone who's like 4 or 5 willpower, like really high like that, that's like Daisy saying, "Well, I'm not going to investigate." I guess like it's a card that turns you into Daisy.
And particularly if you're
Ambassador.
playing like 3-4 player and everyone else is opening up the map, that bad stuff token effect, like it's pretty good sometimes. I would say
Well,
it
maybe
hits,
I'll swap it out then.
it hits and is useful less often than I want it to be, but it's still good when it hits.
But you
Right.
still probably
Oh
got
no,
that
I
clue.
agree.
So Mr. Rook, yes.
Yeah.
Always go for 9. Yep.
Just generally yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, always go for 9. Unless you're very specifically worried about a specific weakness.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there's a garage door. But God, Mr. Rook is just so good. He's level 0, and he's really good selective card draw, and he's got good soak, and he doesn't cost that much, and I think, bold but true, even not taking into account the taboo list, I think Mr. Rook is on a level with DMC. Ooh, okay, so that tells
Not
me that's
take it.
a
So
3
like
for
classic.
So you're saying classic Milan. Mr. Rook is on that level of classic Milan. Ooh, that is bold, but I do not think it is true.
I'm gonna disagree. Yeah.
All right. 3 bold
I think
points, though, right?
Oh
Saying
yeah, for
anyone's
sure.
in a class with Milan is
But
bold.
bold
by
points are the
default.
fake points.
Yeah.
Because you can just say anything and get bold points.
Bold points are the fun points.
Bold points are the easy points.
They're the clickbait points.
Mystics, yeah, exactly. They're the BuzzFeed article headline points.
So I have found myself actually sticking a cheeky one of Swift Reflexes in a lot of decks. How have you guys found that one?
Oh, what is that one again?
It's the skids on a stick.
Yeah, spending 2
Basically,
to get
Skid
an action.
stick. Oh yeah. I like the idea. I haven't actually gotten it to go off yet, or I haven't actually used it yet. But I remember liking it when I read it, and it's got 2 agility icons. So hey.
I like it in Preston
Yeah.
because he has all the monies, right? So the ability to use that money that you might not always use each turn, depending on what you're doing, to just pay for another action that might just be a move action. I like.
So do you include this in a Skids deck just to capitalize? Like, because he has a limit once per round thing, right? Do you just throw these in there too so you can just keep doing it?
I don't think you're going to be spending that much money for that many actions.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't, but
Okay.
I tend not to do these crazy like a billion action skids decks like some people do.
Sure.
So, I don't know.
You're not doing the whole what is it, borrowed time and
Right, so
and
maybe those
typewriter
decks.
builds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like a lot of the. I think this has been a strong cycle for rogues that it's just like just pay for the things you want to do. You want an action, do it. You want a clue, buy it. You want to evade, buy it. You know, like
It's like they knew they were releasing Preston.
It's almost like they knew that. Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't too psyched with the Guardian cards in this pack. Luxley is okay. Like, she's okay, but the whole, like, she's the reverse of almost what I want to do, where when you discover a clue, deal a damage. Like,
for a guardian.
if she's in a guard, you're already engaged with that enemy. Like, what's going on? And
To
then
me-
well maintained is. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, with Alice Luxley, I like her in a Roland build for 4-player where he's crowd control. Like, kills an enemy, picks up a clue, uses Alex Luxley to kill that acolyte or the rats. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
does that kind of thing. And he can kind of flex into getting clues as well because you get that intellect boost.
Right.
But I do agree, she's weird. Like,
Yeah,
she doesn't
it-
fully
yeah.
fit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then well maintained is cool, but you like that's a build around me card. Like that's
Sure,
you don't use that unless you're running all the upgrades.
Yeah,
And
that's like Voltron weapon build.
yeah.
so I have a deck that it's gonna go into, and that's
Shotgun.
it. Right.
Shotgun
yeah.
deck? Yeah.
It's going into my front seat deck. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna call it. The front seat deck. Oh my god.
Perfect. There you go.
No,
that was that.
No,
That was a
stop.
ghostly revelation or whatever it's
it's
called.
way too abstract.
No, it's not. It's the perfect amount of abstract.
Yeah, go.
I've decently liked Hawkeye folding camera. I don't
yet to
think
use
it's
I've never tried it. I looked at it. I was like, "Fuck this."
it's pretty good in Joe.
Okay, I could see that. My problem with
think
Hawkeye
it's-
folding camera is that it requires you to do what it rewards you for doing.
Yes.
I mean,
but that's
wait,
okay,
what?
I think.
So
It's gonna help you.
It requires you to investigate well to clear the last clue from a location, right?
but presumably
it-
as a seeker, you're good at that anyway.
Sure.
Right. Agree. So the willpower, the +1 willpower is great. I love that that's the one resource reward. The 2 with the +1 intellect, I think depending on your build, that's good.
But I mean that means less committing of cards from your
Sure.
hand, right?
Sure.
But you know what? Also, like, just take the black book. It already does both of those.
But
doesn't
it
take
give
up a
you
card
+1
slot.
sanity. It takes away your sanity. Yeah.
I've looked at it in quite a few builds, and surprisingly, the thing that has actually nixed it of all things is the hand slot. Like the particular builds that I've wanted to use it in have like had their hand slot spoken for some reason. But I don't think it's a bad card. I think it has uses in particular investigators, but
So you're telling me that when we get the next strap upgrade, it'll be better because it won't take up a hand slot.
I will say that I think was it you that said you like this in Joe?
That was me.
Scott, yeah, I do. Oh, Scott, hi, yeah, you're Scott. Okay, no, I
We've
can see
met,
that
yeah.
definitely because he has the
Nick,
whole
I
hand
think you
slot
should
thing.
drop Intrepid though.
Oh yeah, he has the whole hand slot thing, and the first thing this does is buff Will, which he's gonna want. So I can
makes-
see this being good for him.
Yeah, and he's a 8/6, so a little extra sanity is not too bad. And if he has his guns out, it's a tool, right? So you can get that whole
Exactly.
Guns out, guns out.
And I feel like if we ever get the Mystic off-class Seeker, this is all of a sudden quite good because
Sure.
Mystics would obviously generally like the willpower and the sanity boost.
I don't mind this in Daisy. If I'm not playing like Tome Daisy,
Yeah.
if I'm doing like Spell Slinger,
Then why are you playing Daisy?
well, I'm doing Spell Slinger Daisy, right, where I use
sure.
Shrivelings and Withers and stuff like that.
So do you think you take this instead of St. Hubert's Key or in addition to?
Oh, in addition to,
Okay.
why not stack them all up?
Well, because resources are finite, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Are they though?
No,
I mean, if you're playing with classic Milan,
yes, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then you also have Crack the Case now. Like, I mean, it's not too. Seekers can make some pretty good cash now. So
The ones I was looking at this for recently were Taboo Rex, to get to bump his will up to handle treacheries and to boost his intellect so he can use his ability more, and then also Norman because he really wants the will and the intellect.
Sad how often
I keep
forget
forgetting
about
he
Norman.
exists.
Yep. He's honestly one of my favorite Seekers. But so often I forget he exists.
Why? Oh,
You
he's
can
my
only play him
favorite, but I
standalone.
forget he's in the game.
you can only play him standalone. Let's
They
be
should
honest.
make a Norman card. I love Norman.
I would say yeah. You probably only play him standalone because he's so tricky to map out for a campaign. It's possible though. Okay, so moving into the scenario itself.
Wait, I have to give one shout out to
on.
Belly of the Beast because it's
No, I
Rita's
refuse.
favorite new card.
Really? Is it that good? She
Yes,
has
it
access
is.
to look
Play
what I
solo
found.
Rita, and you would have asked that
Yeah,
question.
it's good for Rita. Mhm.
Okay, well, if I'm going to play solo Rita, I'll also check myself into the nearest insane asylum. So
Yeah. Sean, I'm with you. This card is also garbage.
So you guys are categorically wrong on that. It's not even for Rita. For Wendy too, this does work. Any of the high evade investigators.
Wendy likes it.
Yeah. Wendy also has like 3 intellect and can get lockpicks, and I don't know.
I mean, you're not wrong.
But not at level 0.
That art.
Yeah, turn these into lockpicks.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so moving on to the scenarios themselves.
Yeah.
I actually think this one's pretty cool. It's got a simple setup. It's pretty
Wait,
straightforward.
setting up a second encounter deck you count as simple?
Well, yeah, you just look at the trait that says spectral and separate them, and Bob's your uncle.
Okay, I thought you meant like, I guess I was going with it has a generic Arkham setup. When you said simple? Never
Right.
mind. Anyway,
No, I mean,
semantics.
as far as like you're not checking 16 different things in your campaign log to see like, what encounter sets do I grab.
Mm-hmm.
Like you grab your encounter sets and you go.
Or if you're playing on TTS, you just hit like set up.
Oh, okay. Well,
No,
if we're going to compare any experience to what we experience on TTS, then that's going to be a rough row to hoe.
Jeeves, please set up my Arkham so that I may play. Anyways. Yes, simple setup.
Okay, so sorry. So basically, we've already talked about this a little bit leading up to it. I feel like there's a mental game that goes with these scenarios where it's like, get as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And it leads to people feeling like they failed in situations where they actually did pretty okay.
Mm-hmm.
Really, that's all I'm going to get on that one.
I mean, I've played this scenario, a lot. I still haven't played after this scenario because I haven't been satisfied with how I've turned out in this scenario. And I should just bite the bullet and play for the greater good because I hear it's like the best Arkham that's Arkham.
I love that scenario. Yeah.
It is a really good
but-
scenario.
Yeah, but it's just like the fact, like my first clue should be that the card is called Unfinished Business. That should be my clue to tell me it's okay to end the game with it. And not that I have to go banish it. You know what I mean? Like the fact that it's called Unfinished Business should tell me, okay, I can resign with these. But I just haven't yet, because I have this mental like hurdle to get over that's like banish at least one of them, and then I just end up tanking.
Now, am I correct in saying that finishing unfinished business is literally just for victory points' sake?
Is that what it is?
If you resign with unfinished business in your threat area, you still get to score that heretic as scored, like not released.
Yeah, that is my understanding so far.
It's just also like some of those the unfinished business are at the end of your turn. Test this. If you fail, bad stuff happens, right? So that's the other reason to try and get them in the victory display, so you don't have to do that.
Yeah, it is kind of a weird aspect of the scenario because all of my quote-unquote good runs where I've gotten like 2 or 3 heretics, they've been resigning with them. I haven't actually banished them. Like, I've banished a very small amount, maybe only 1 or 2 across all my plays.
Yeah, now that I know you just need one, this one I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, I got 1, good enough. Because like, oh man, the last couple times I've played this, every single time the heretics that have to go to like the crypt are way at the other end of like the map, and the ones that have to go to the graves are at the crypt, and I'm just like, can someone just like be at the place where they should go?
Yeah.
like, god damn it. You get all the way across the map, I have to go all the way back. Like, you guys aren't worth my time. Resign.
Yeah, like you would think at some point it would line up, but I've never had it line up properly.
Nope, not once.
Never.
This is similar to Secret Name that I feel like this in true solo and just in general, it's very action intensive. Because you got to get the thing, you got to clear off the clues of the right location to attempt the banishment, but then there's another heretic there, so you got to deal with that heretic first, and then now that one's in front of you doing bad things to you. Yeah.
There's some bonkers shroud values too.
Yes.
That sometimes are very difficult to, like, even though it gives you like, oh, you know, if you don't have any hexes in your play area, well, when has that ever happened?
Never.
Not often.
Thanks.
Although I have to say, I have once pulled off a crack the case on that 8 shroud location, and it felt real good.
That is, yeah. I need a moment.
It was in my Joe deck where he was already rocking higher ed because this was pre-taboo. So I'm already keeping more than 5 or more cards in my hand, and then anyway, resources and cards were had.
Yeah, now I'm pausing because I'm just remembering something I wanted to mention in Secret Name that I didn't. That's okay. Yeah, I think what is even narratively going on with resigning? Because are the ghosts just with you for the rest of your life now? Because you didn't banish them, but they're unfinished business. So you're just going about your day with these 2 ghosts over your shoulder.
They've just set up shop in your psyche.
You've talked to them, so now they're just like, all right, I don't know.
They're gonna possess a robot, and then they're gonna be your robot pal.
Sounds great.
Is there any strategies you guys have found to
get really lucky and set up the heretics?
That does help. That does help immensely.
Yeah.
God, I think in this one, resilience and just really honing in on what is the highest value objective to chase right now is super important.
Yeah,
I mean, you could say that about any scenario, but I feel like doubly so in this one.
Definitely speaking of resilience, lots of soaks.
Yeah, there's that one witch that, like, when you kill it, it still hits you.
Oh yeah, the Vengeful Witch.
Yeah. So there are so many little things where it's like, even if you quote unquote progress, the game's still pinging you for it.
Yeah, and that some of the unfinished businesses are pinging you with damage or
Oh, and Malevolent Spirit. It's so annoying. The one, like, if you don't kill it with a spell or a relic, you just heal it and it goes away.
Yeah, you just banish it for a turn.
Yeah. Oh god.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough. I'm just glad I play Mystic a lot because...
Yeah, this is a cycle that loves its mystics.
Well, another reason Enchanted Blade is fantastic, right? Because it's got that relic trait. And even taking it through...
like Carcosa.
Yeah.
The Geists.
But yeah.
Great card.
Do you guys find yourselves actually... this is kind of similar to Carnivale strategy a bit, but do you guys take the time to spend a clue to look at a heretic's other side, or do you just go in blind?
Nope, go hard.
I go in blind.
It depends on the investigators. I would say up to the point where I was running Rita and Safina through, I had never bothered to look at the other side.
Sure.
But Safina in that game just happened to draw hard into all her clue stuff, so she happened to have a fair amount of clues. So I was like, all right, you know what? I can afford it to sneak ahead, or to peek ahead and see what I'm dealing with here. And sure enough, it was the one that's like, if you're peeking at this with the parlay action, it attacks you. It's like, oh, come on now!
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like this is one of those scenarios where there's lots of like corner case circumstances that just kind of seem to happen way more often than they should.
Yeah, this one finds particular ways to, like, my blind play, my Joe got knocked out because it was the one where you can go ahead and defeat it, and then it just goes right back to its enemy side and attacks you. That was not a good day in Arkham history.
All right, so Nick, you have some feelings on the beatability of this scenario, do you not?
I do. Didn't I?
Sorry, I BRB'd for a second. Maybe that's when you talked about it.
I mean, if I wasn't clear, I can be more clear. It's hard.
It is hard. It is hard.
And it appears to ask the issue, and I mentioned this earlier, but it's largely psychological in that it appears to ask more of you than it actually does.
I would agree there.
So, and because it appears that way, my brain was just like, well, gotta banish these fuckers, and then I just couldn't do it. And I just sat back down because I had to step away from the computer, but I heard Ian talking about the heretic that flips back over and attacks you.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that is the first one I get every single time I play this game. Or this scenario, rather. And it annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think is worth mentioning, and I apologize again if I would BRB'd at the wrong moment, someone else already mentioned this, but again, dooming out on the last agenda doesn't appear to be as bad as we would expect it to. Like, there's a note of surviving the Watcher's embrace that you get.
Which we don't. That could come to play in the last scenario, like giving a bad ending. It could,
but like if you just read that actually seems like a positive thing, does it not?
Sure. Maybe.
Depends on who the Watcher is and what embrace exactly means.
It's just a Dementor's kiss.
Yeah, and I think it's very telling that their resolutions are basically that getting just one heretic out of 4 gets you the special memento. So basically 1 out of 4 is kind of considered a success. I think that speaks to the intention that, or at least the acknowledgement that this is a very hard scenario and you're probably not going to get very many heretics banished.
Right.
So my question, and maybe I'm thinking too far ahead here, is for Iron Man, the Circle and Done. Do you literally just go grab one heretic and then everyone just rushes to resign?
I think so, yeah.
You know, just like, oh, got you, drag you to the resign area, everyone out, boom, done.
Have we, and I know this is getting into slightly spoiler territory, so just answer yes or no, but have we figured out what the heretics do when they're released into the wild? Okay.
Yes.
Maybe I need
when they're released into the wild.
Oh, wait, I'm thinking
Go,
of Broods.
Be free, little heretics.
Yeah! It dives over, hit the rock.
Arkham gets spookier.
Yeah, like, I think it's hit its critical mass a long time ago.
Yeah.
I just love the whole story of this scenario that's like, we don't have any info, let's hit the graveyard.
It really is. It's kind of a leap of logic where it's like, oh man, I really wish I could pick a witch's brain right now.
Yeah. Let's find a dead witch.
Let's go find some dead ones.
Oh no, it turns out it's a bad idea.
There's ghosts everywhere. Who would have thought?
Oh no, Sean! If that question you asked me when I just came back is because of that note I have in the show notes, is this scenario beatable? It's because I never looked at the scenario resolutions until I was prepping the show notes for this, and I was reading through the resolutions. I'm like, wait a minute. So if you die, like if you get defeated, or if you doom out, you still read the resolutions that are like there's only 2 resolutions. Mm-hmm. And one of them says if you die, read one, and the other one says if you doom out, read the other. So then that means no matter what, you're reading one of those 2, even if you quote unquote succeed. So I was like, is this beatable or is it failable? Like, is it really? It was just throwing me for a loop.
Yeah, I mean, you can technically get all 4 because there is that backside that gives you a special memento. But then you're reading, you're right, you're just reading the same resolution that you would if you resign, which is interesting.
It was just surprising that in a scenario that had like an apparent gradient of requirements, that then it just shuffles you into line A or line B. Mm-hmm. So,
all right, well, that's Wages of Sin. So I'd say on the whole, TCU has been going great. I think thus far, and again, we still have yet to do In the Clutches of Chaos and Before the Black Throne. I think these are the lower point for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'd agree.
But I still think they're good. It's not like Heart of the Elders where I go, all right.
Yeah, it's not the low Grand Canyon that was Boundary Beyond and Heart of the Elders. Like, the Secret Name and Wages are the low point of TCU for me, but the overall quality of the cycle is that even though it's lower, it's not like I hate these scenarios, and I think they both do really interesting things.
I don't know if I'm just crazy, but I've really warmed on TNA. So to hear you guys like
you mean
lament
TFA?
about them,
TFA,
sorry, on TNA, huh?
Oh God.
No, I've come around to Boundary Beyond because I can see, like, I think it's really interesting what it does mechanically, and also because it is fun to play because it's challenging. But Heart of the Elders to me is still... And Heart of the Elders' biggest crime is that it's just boring. Because both Part A and Part B are literally just remixes of 2 scenarios that we already played, both of which are more interesting than it. You know what I mean?
I'll give that to you on Part A. I think Part A, like, just because the way to game it is you just go out, grab enough clues for a thing, the temple or the tower, come back, restart the game, and just do that, like, ad nauseum.
Right.
But I'm surprised you guys are saying that these scenarios are the low points, because, like...
Well, maybe, what would you consider the low point of TCU if not Secret Name?
The prologue.
Well,
can I say that?
Okay, I'll give you that simply because I almost started another TCU campaign and I was like, I don't want to have to set up and play through the prologue again. Like, isn't there a quick skip option? Like, can I just roll a random resolution?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten to the point of literally rolling a D8 or a D12 to see how many evidence I get.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that the prologue is bad. It's just I've played it so many times now. I'm like, I don't want to like. But the first time you play it, the first couple times, like, that is such a cool way to start a campaign. And I hope, like, if that happens again, that's great, awesome. But to be honest, and maybe I'm just in love with this campaign. There isn't a low point for me right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, no.
To quote yourself, Scott. To quote yourself, there has to be a last place at the Olympics.
Also,
okay. Well, I mean,
also, yeah.
The prologue then. Like, I mean, and the other ones are just like, all of them I think are really good. So
I wouldn't call Secret Name a low point. I would call it a speed bump.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all relative to me. Like, it's a low point compared to the fact that, like, some of these other scenarios I freaking love, and I wouldn't say that I freaking love, like, Secret Name or Wages of Sin. I guess that's what it comes down to me. But I do overall enjoy them, and I don't think they're bad scenarios by any means.
If I have to go by what I say, Nick.
Which is the best possible way you can start a sentence.
If I have to follow myself.
If I'm ignoring the prologue, because let's be honest, I mean, that's a cheating answer, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I will say at this point, the Wages of Sin is the lowest of all the scenarios. However, again, it's because someone has to come last at the Olympics. Like,
it's Echoes of the Past. Like, it's a perfectly acceptable scenario, but it's the most boring part of Carcosa.
I like that better than Secret Name, just because Secret Name felt like it was such a clusterfuck.
Sure.
Like, clusterfuck... I'm sorry, the scenario isn't called clusterfuck. I don't know why I said that. Secret Name is trying to cram all this shit into, like, 5 locations, and then into, like, 2 locations. And I'm like, no! And it's like, oh, now I have to pseudo-explore, and I hate this. Like, I hate when my progress is like, I have to make progress. No, I have to test to make progress, to test to make more progress. Like, it's just, it was rough. Whereas with Wages of Sin, I love those scenarios where it's like, here's the big map, go figure it out, loser. And then I go figure it out and realize I'm a loser. Like, those to me are more fun. So I think I like Wages better than Name.
You had to figure out the map to figure that out?
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think Secret Name is such a, like, binary scenario to me, because I've had some plays that are just those slogs and I'm like, I really hate this scenario right now, and then I've had others where I'm just getting to the end and it's such a tense finish at the end that it's hard for me to judge it. And because it is the Witch House, like, I think has a little bit of a sentimental attachment for me. One thing about Wages of Sin, shout out to we've kind of seen something similar on Boundary Beyond, but I love how the art switches from the normal to the spectral side. I especially like, I think it's like a church where it's just empty, and then the pews are filled with ghosts on the other side. Yep. It's awesome.
Man, I I love that about this campaign, and I know I mentioned it when we talked about the box, but it feels so, and I know Stranger Things takes it from previous tropes, but like it feels so in line with that Stranger Things feel, where it's like we're going into the upside down. Here we go, flip that location, and then it's all dark and
You're like Silent
Also,
Hill
yeah.
or something.
That's also another thing too, to Wages of Sin's credit, is that its gimmick is something we haven't seen yet, which is 2 encounter decks that you have in play simultaneously, and that you kind of interchange between. Whereas Secret Name's gimmick, we've seen in some form or another in previous scenarios, whether that's recurring single enemy or exploring locations, or that's that sort of thing.
Sure.
So.
And I definitely do think like hard sometimes about, should I flip this because then I'm gonna have to deal with a spectral card next turn. Like that's actually a meaningful decision.
Right.
Excellent. Well, I like I've been saying this whole time, I'm really interested to review my feelings of these earlier scenarios once we finally figure out what the hell it all means. But for now, they're still fun. I'm really thoroughly enjoying the Circle Undone as a campaign, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how it pans out. So guys, let's move it on into a little bit of Tentacle time. Scout, are the Marble Olympics still going on?
No, they are done. I think I mentioned that last episode, but yeah, you guys suck. just shitting on all the things I like, don't you? God. I've had a really busy last 2 weeks, so I guess my tentacle time has been doing and this is kind of Arkham-y, but the League of Extraordinary Investigators, the kind of competitive Arkham League that we got going. It's pretty fun. I'll let people know when Season 2 is starting. We got a Discord server up, so that makes it way better than Facebook, because holy crap, Facebook is just garbage for organizing people. But I've been playing a lot of a phone mobile game called Golf Blitz, and it's basically where you can hit other people's balls. Like, it's just a swing as fast as you can and like go on this map, and there's like sticky walls and stuff like that. It's super fun. It sounds ridiculous, but it's called Golf Blitz, and you should try it.
Excellent.
That's all. I'm embarrassed that I'm using a mobile game as my tentacle time, but
No, you wouldn't be the first.
Nope.
That's true.
Yep.
Ian, what's been grabbing you?
Well, in this latest installment of, Life is Strange. Well, just one short Life is Strange update. So I caught up on Season 2, but this is the first time I'm playing a Life is Strange, because it's a kind of an episodic model where they release in episodes. This is the first time I'm not playing it after all episodes have been released. So I actually have to wait for the next episode now. And it ended on a crazy cliffhanger, so I have to wait till August 22nd. But yeah, that one has really kind of got its hooks in me now, so I'm enjoying the sequel to the first Life is Strange. The other thing is I've started playing, and this might be a kind of useless tentacle time because I haven't played enough of it really to get a good hold on what I feel about it, but I started playing Sinking City, which is the new Lovecraft video game made by a studio that has done some, they're most known for like some Sherlock Holmes games in the past. So yeah, like I said, I'm only like an hour or two into it, and so I'm not quite sure how I feel about it yet. It's kind of got mixed reviews so far. It's interesting because it's kind of a similar-ish beginning and setting to the Call of Cthulhu game that came out last year, where it's like this city that's kind of remote and locals hate outsiders, and there's like visions that the main protagonist is having. Like all of that is very similar, but this one is different because Call of Cthulhu was more of kind of a linear experience, like take you through these different levels, and this is an open world, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around whether I like that or not, because typically I tend to be, I mean, I like an open world game as much as the next guy, but I tend to be a little bit critical because I feel like there was a point at which every game maker was like, yeah, make it an open world and people will love it. Just make it an open world. And sometimes that's a substitute for actually having an interesting story or a game. Like sometimes I want a game just to hold me by the hand and tell me a story. But I do think having an open world Mythos Lovecraft world is interesting, because I do think they've done a good job with the setting that, like, you never know what's going to be around the next corner in the next house, and because it's up to you to kind of choose your own path and choose where you explore, it kind of gives you this weird tension of like, am I going to wander into the wrong place and something I really don't want to see? And so that is kind of a cool Mythos experience.
I'll be interested to see how you feel when you finish it.
Yeah. We'll see how long it takes, but yeah.
All right. Nick, how about you?
I just want to say real quick how interesting, like, what a world we live in that, like, now we can sit down and watch a full season of current television all in one sitting, and yet Ian is waiting a week or a month or whatever to get the next episode of his video game. Like, what a world we live in.
True.
Very true. The future really flipped it all on its head, didn't it?
Right? For me, I'm going to, despite... Oh my god, I'm already forgetting who said it. Hang on just a second while I scroll through here. Despite Christopher Urbanchik's wonderful roast of me, I'm going to talk about my books real quick because I finished I finished book 4 of Astral Tides, and I released that. And as part of the release for that, I made book 1 free on my website. So any of you can go to nicholascorey.com and pick up the first book in my Space Pirate series for free, as long as you think that $0 is not too much to spend.
Let it go, Nick. Let it go.
So that's there. But other than that, what have I been playing? Not really a whole much. I'm doing another play, so that's eating up most of my evenings. But a little bit of video game time, or game time, quote unquote, that I've had. I've played. My son and I was just like poking around on the PlayStation, and Roland was sitting there playing with his dinosaurs, and he looks up, he's like, play that? And I was like, I thought he was going to say Jurassic Park again. I was like, no, Dad doesn't want to play the dinosaur game. And he's like, play that? And he points, and he's pointing at Bloodborne, and I was like, oh, okay. So I started playthrough number 4 of Bloodborne.
Wait, hang on. Did we just have a glitch in the Matrix? I'm pretty sure you told us that you started number 4 last time, too. How far are you now?
No. I said that I started number 4 in our chat a couple days ago when I started it.
Okay.
But I'm at Cathedral Ward, so I just did Old Yarnum.
Nice.
And I'm moving into the Cathedral Ward, and God, that's such a good game, guys. Mm-hmm. It's so good.
Dude, we should group up. That's about where my latest new character is.
Yeah, definitely.
Guess I have to play it one day.
You have a PS4 now. There's no reason.
I know, I do. Well, the reason is my everlasting game queue.
It's all the other games that he hasn't played.
Yeah, I mean, you still haven't even finished Red Dead Redemption.
Don't remind me. I know.
Oh God, I haven't even started that one. I gotta get that. I gotta get Spider-Man.
Yeah,
here I am
Spider-Man
playing Bloodborne for the 4th time.
Yeah, that's basically what I've been doing the past little while, is trying to clear up my past game queue. I'm still stuck on the last boss of Sekiro, so that's at a standstill. So I decided to pick back up Spider-Man and get through the last couple DLCs, and man, oh God, the combat system in that game is so good. Oh, it feels so good as Spider-Man. I just, every time I go back to it, I'm reminded how much I loved it. And it's kind of one of those things where, like, when I bought it, literally all I played for like 3 or 4 weeks, and then beat it and then set it aside, so you just kind of forget about it. But anyway, so I started that back up, got through the 3rd DLC and into the 4th, and then Scott, I bought Wargroove on your recommendation. And I'm really digging it so far. I'm still basically in like the tutorial levels. I'm still like within like the first 5 or 6 levels, but
Yeah.
It's got enough of that like Fire Emblem Advance Wars feel that I dig it.
It
it's
feels
good.
identical to Advance Wars to me. Like it is such a spiritual successor. I've never played Fire Emblem, so I can't speak to that. But I was a Advance Wars like fiend.
I think it's far closer to Advance Wars. Fire Emblem is way more about like your units are RPG characters, so there's a lot more nuance and building to it. Whereas these in Wargroove and Advance Wars, it's more like classes of units and how you implement their use and positioning.
Yeah. Wargroove feels so much like Advanced Wars. It's literally just, hey, we made the units old, like they're catapults instead of tanks, right? Like
and
instead of artillery. Yeah, and there's dogs, right? But even the dogs, it's like there were scouts and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like it is literally Advanced Wars, just ported to the 1600s.
And
like,
man, I think I say it every time I mention a Switch game, but goddamn, I continue to be impressed with the Switch as a console.
Agreed.
Like, and I'm really looking forward to Marvel Ultimate Alliance coming out in July. So if any of you guys are playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 on Switch, let us know somehow, because I know Ian is definitely in. I think Scott, you said you're interested at this point.
I mean, if you guys are both in, then I have to be in. Like I did, it wasn't even on my radar, and you guys are like, we can play multiplayer, and there's some like I love progression within video games, like character progression. Like, we can play multiplayer, and there's character progression. I'm like, oh, and do you guys? Okay, yeah, sure, why not? Like, that's. I haven't looked at a trailer for it even.
My silver lining was like, since Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 was Switch exclusive, and I don't have a Switch, I was like, oh, but look, guys, Square Enix is making an Avengers game. I'll have a game I can play. And then I watched the videos on it, and I'm like, this looks like shit. The character models are terrible.
I was about to say, I've yet to actually watch the trailer for myself, but I know the reception at E3 was less than stellar.
It looks like it could be a fun game. Like, they showed gameplay, but the gameplay looks so good that everybody thought they were showing CG cutscenes, and then they had to come out later and be like, no, this is gameplay, and then everyone's like, oh, we're gonna eat our hats now. But
that's
the
a
character
good problem
models, it is, but the character models do look like garbage. And I don't know, but still, like, I know the Ultimate Alliance formula, and I know I like it, and it's been long enough since I've had one that I think I'd probably really enjoy it again. So,
cool.
Just
well, anyway,
get a Switch.
Yeah, pretty much. It's especially if you're a person with small children or even medium-sized children.
Children of all sizes.
Haven't upgraded to the large children yet.
We're getting there. Mine's 12 now. But if just like there are so many times when you're playing a game, and if you've got it like in the den or in the living room, or if it's a contested TV at all, so often you either have to wait till the family's done with the TV, or if like the family bombs in on you while you're in the middle of something, you're just kind of done until everyone goes to bed. But with the Switch, you just pick the thing up and you play on the couch, and it's great.
That does sound really good.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, your kids are at like the perfect age for this to be of use to you, Nick.
Yes.
And then Ellie's going to be like, can I take it to school? And I'll be like, no! Take your phone. I don't care.
I take it to work.
Oh my god, I'd totally take it to work.
If I still commuted, I would have
tell
it
my
on the
boss.
bus for sure.
But I mean, like, I also bought like one of those like like the hard shell travel cases for it. But, and I also like, I mean, sometimes in my work there's downtime, so it's not like I'm skipping out on work. It's just I happen to have literally nothing to do.
You don't have to justify
and I might as well play
yourself
video games.
to us, Scott.
You're in the passenger seat of the ambulance playing while they drive to the location.
Yeah. Well, what I do is I bust out Mario Kart and I give them one of the little handles, like the little, and we both play Mario Kart.
Let's just see how it goes.
Yeah.
You know how they say there's like,
brought to you by Twitch.
there's certain songs
Switch.
you're supposed to
Damn
play
it.
when you're
Screwed
doing
up.
CPR, then you just put on your Switch songs instead. Switch soundtrack.
It's like, you can have the blue controller because your lips are blue. Here you go.
Oh, jeez. Another one bites the dust.
Done.
Bites the dust.
Okay, all right, we're circling the drain now.
Okay.
So
We started there.
We've just been holding on to the edge.
Super quick though, Sean. Before
Yes.
you outro, Matt told us, and I totally forgot to put it in the campaign note or in the show notes. July 11th, FFG is doing a stream, and there's going to be Dream Eater cards.
Yeah, Dream Eater deck building.
Let me find. Yeah, I think it's July 11th.
Yeah.
Yep, July 11th at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Yep.
I really like that there's been a push for more stuff like that from FFG
Yeah.
internally. So
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
It sounds like a good chance to see Dream Eater cards, and maybe, I don't know if he'll be doing Luke or New Investigator or something, but I'm looking forward
We
to
get
it.
to confirm that Luke has off-class Seeker, because that's what I'm really hoping for. All right, excellent. So, guys, as mentioned earlier, if you want in on the next Orbits contest, go out to our Instagram, Facebook, or send to our Gmail your caption for the cover art for the Dream Eaters. And as always, we haven't heard from you guys in a while, and we like to hear from you. So if you've got a comment, question, bitch, moan, or gripe, call that in, rather, to the Mythos Busters hotline at 203-493-6984. Join our Discord, find us on YouTube or Twitch. You know the places. If you Google us, you got all our things. So we will see you guys next time for episode 63, and be sure to check in for the musical in the meantime, because that's going to be happening, and I'm so excited.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. I just can't hide it. I'm about to lose control.
I know. All right. So, thanks everyone for joining us for episode 62 of Mythos Busters. We'll see y'all for 63. Bye.